Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly, Cata Mejía. With me today are Eddy, Cruz, and Pedro Paredes. They are co-founders of the 926 Supper Club. Bienvenidos. How are you both?
Gracias.
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
First of all, congratulations are in order because you both recently got engaged.
Yes.
So,
Thank
mil
you.
felicitaciones. How exciting. We'll get to how you guys met and what you all now do together. But I want to pull back the curtain to who you are as people. First individually and then obviously as a unit. So cuéntenme un poco sobre your early days, your upbringing. What was your childhood like? Whichever of you wants to start, feel free.
I can start. Yeah. I was born and raised in the Bronx, in the South Bronx, in the home that this supper club is about, at 926 Southern Boulevard. I was always a very creative, curious kid. I love asking questions and just listening in on like the adult conversation. Decían que yo era un come boca because that was just, I was very like curious as a kid. And I love the arts throughout my elementary school. But then I discovered science and I was always curious about like how the processes in our bodies work and all of that. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a doctor. So I had this dream of mine since forever. Like, I'm going to be this plastic surgeon. No idea. I was like, I love science. I'm really good at it. My grades said so. And like, this is what I'm going to do. And then I went to college and I was like, you know what? I'm going back to the creative field. And I studied hospitality. And then I went into marketing. And now this is how we got to 926.
Okay. We'll talk about those pre-steps as well. ¿Y tú?
For me, I'm also raised in the Bronx. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and then I came here as a very young kid. Went to high school, middle school in the Bronx, and then I went away for college in Connecticut, where I strangely majored in East Asian studies with a concentration in Japanese. After that, I came back home to New York, worked here for like a year or two, and then I went to East Asia, to pursue more of my East Asian studies side, which landed me a job in South Korea. And I lived there for 3 years.
Wow.
Yes. And then I came back to the States because I miss my family. I miss anonymity. And got into real estate. So I've been in real estate now for about like 6 years.
What were you both hoping to get out of the respective paths that you chose? So you mentioned East Asian studies. What about that, first of all, piqued your interest? And also, why did you decide to pursue that? And later you know, with hospitality and marketing, what was it que te atrajo?
For me, it was very spontaneous because I went into college not knowing anything of what I wanted to do. I went to a liberal arts school where you're just taking classes for the first 2 years. But I didn't have an agenda, so I wanted to try many different things. And then I said, you know what, let me go to this Japanese 101 class. And I sat there, didn't understand one word of what was happening, but I loved the vibe and signed up, and it led to that. So curiosity led to it.
Yeah. You also mentioned you were a curious kid as well.
Yeah.
So did that play a part?
Yes, absolutely. When I was in college, when I started college, I still had this idea that I would be a doctor. And then I worked at our hotel on campus, and I saw how at the hotel we can transform a ballroom to look whatever we would like to look at. So one day we could have like a student reunion, but the next day it could be a wedding, and it's a completely different vibe. And that all had to do with the design of fabrics, of lights, of furniture. And that piqued my interest. And I was like, this is interesting. Maybe I can have a career in this. So then I started interning at hotels where we were trying to analyze how can we have people guess what hotel they're in without seeing the logo. So what is the signature thing that we have or do that people can assume, oh, this is a Ritz-Carlton. And from then on, I was like, design shapes the experience in whatever you do. And so that's became like my mantra for social media.
I love that. And I would almost argue it's design in tangent with curation, because specifically what you were mentioning, you know, there is such an attention to detail to every little thing individually and simultaneously how it fits into the bigger picture. As you were talking about, you know, the project of can people guess what hotel without the logo, I have been fascinated to find in recent years to find out that hotels even have like signature scents and they play to sights, sounds, all of these scents that we have to try to make us feel at home or more relaxed or to go along with the brand that they're already showcasing.
Absolutely.
So we'll get to talk about that because it really is something that I'm very interested in. How would you all say that both your New York and your Dominican identities have been interwoven into everything that you all do? Because you mentioned, you know, how you're from the Bronx and you're so proud of it and that is home. And you've also decided to use that as a launching pad for both a personal and a professional venture. So I'm curious to know how that's played a role.
I was always interested in learning how to manage like high luxury because I felt like that is where you could be challenged in terms of like different obstacles that can be presented. And then it hit me, why don't I share my own story? Like why, like as much as I'm learning in that environment, I feel like it's not fulfilling where I come from or highlighting who I am. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, why can't I marry the two and have this really nice dining experience, but celebrating who I am and the people that come from where I come from. And so that's how those two ideas or worlds came together.
Yeah. What about you?
For
Does that
me-
come into play with real estate?
It does, but for me, it's like I being an immigrant also aligns with always wanting more or not settling for whatever you have. Like I knew for a fact that after I graduated college, I didn't want to be in a cubicle or in a 9 to 5. That's why I ventured into real estate because I'm an independent contractor at the end of the day. I make my own time, I make my own hours, and the effort that you put in is what you get out. So as opposite to my family members, my parents and my aunts, where they will spend 20 to 30 years in a company going to the same location in the same spot. I'm like, wow, like that's crazy, you know, like with so much devotion and dedication and obedience and almost like satisfaction. But for me, it was kind of the opposite. So that's why it always led to me having an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that because there is such a generational divide, right? Where generations previous to ours, they find a good job, stable, it pays the bills. They might like it, they might not, but if it's stable, they stick to it. Whereas in our day and age, we see more and more people taking chances on themselves and taking risks without a guarantee that it's going to turn into something, or really seeking something that is more aligned with their passions and their interests beyond just, is it paying the bills? Does it have benefits? Of course, all of those things are nice, but it isn't everything. So it's refreshing to also hear that that has played a role in your decision making.
I learned to have so much admiration for that too, because for example, my aunt, she's retired now, but she spent 30 years of her life working for the New Balance factory. But she did it with so much love and devotion, and her always on the clock. Her vacation time was always at the same time throughout the year. And although it wasn't a high-paying job, I saw the compounding effect of it because over time she was able to buy her house. She was able to retire with a 401k and all of that. So it is interesting to see how like it still compounds no matter what part of the fork you go from.
Yeah, 100%. I'd love to talk more about your respective families because especially in our culture, right, there is a lot of emphasis on what it is that you decide to do and cultural maybe perceptions or expectations as well. So you started talking about your aunt, but I'm curious to know on both of your ends, what did your families do and how did that influence or not how you decided to pick your path? And maybe what factor of that are you pulling into what you're deciding to do now?
My mom had multiple jobs growing up, but they weren't aligned to anything that I'm interested in. It was more her hobbies. So I remember when I was a kid, my mom worked at a supermarket. And then she worked at some sort of warehouse in Brooklyn. And then she worked for the Administration for Children's Services. So it was more like an office job. And now she works for the fire department. But her hobbies were always around celebrating others. And she was always the one who decorated for every birthday party. She was always the one providing like creative ideas for vacations and like itineraries. And I get that from her. And then my dad was a furniture designer. And
Qué chévere.
I was like, oh, this is interesting because the masculine energy in my house is also the very creative one. Where, like, in my house, when we decided to buy couches or a table, my dad made that decision. Which I knew wasn't the norm, but that was what I grew up with. And because of his creativity and on top of, like, what my mom saw through events and through celebrations, I grew up with, like, these people, or they were adults, and I was just like, okay, if my mom knows how to decorate this space from blank, but my dad knows how to set the vibe so that we can live in it and is used appropriately, I feel like that's why I do what I do. But it wasn't always obvious to me. This is me now thinking and reflecting on, like, what that experience was. Growing up, I just saw it as like, oh, this is what he does and this is what she does, and like, I'm just going along, you know?
Okay. What about you?
For me, it was a little different. My dad and my mom very different. My dad is more technical. He is a plumber by trade, and he is the ultimate handyman because he's the type of person that if you bought a new house, he's that neighbor that you want near you because he will know how to fix anything. Even if he doesn't know, he will tackle it because he knows the engineering part of it, like how things are connected.
It's true.
And I regret not paying attention and when I was a kid because he always took me to work, but I was never interested in it. And now as a grown adult, I have to, like, task rabbit everything. You know, so I was like, yeah, I wish I was a little bit more handy. Yeah. Then my mom was the opposite because she always had, like, that businesswoman mentality. My mom was the one who sold A-bonds. My mom was the one who organized what they call it, like, in English they call it zuzus. The Dominicans call it san, which is like people pulling their money together. And, like, you do a number. I thought it was only Dominicans out, but now, yes, every culture has it.
Yeah.
And she was the person organizing that. She was, I think, the human version of the Facebook Marketplace before it even existed, because she would take something and sell it to somebody else, secondhand stuff. So I got that. I lean more into her spirit, I think. The entrepreneurial and the whole business side of it came from her, I think.
Okay. Hablemos un poco de comida and how central that is to both our cultures, but also what it is that you do. I mention it because food, especially in our culture, is one of those things that you can break bread with someone, and at the dinner table or at the table in general is where you update on your life and when you catch things up and you spend that quality time, and things can be missing in other aspects of life, but as long as there's food on the table, that's such a priority. So what can you all tell me about the role of food and also this idea of abundance in more ways than just what is obvious?
I view food as ceremonial because at 926 we all lived there, and it was that one time of the day where we all came together to eat. It was in the morning and again for dinner, because at lunch we were either at school or people were working. And my grandmother was always the chef. There was no doubt, question who was going to cook. She also never had an issue with that because she loves cooking. And we were all gathered. Like, we never had a big dining table that could fit all of us because there were at least 15 of us. But it was a thing where I remember after school, it was like, oh, my grandmother makes sancocho, or like on the weekend, she's going to make this. And it was just a time that brought everyone together every day. And I loved it because it's not always the case now. Now that people are older, everyone has their own individual families. It probably happens, but on a smaller scale, like when Pedro and I have dinner in our house. Yeah. But it's not the same. And so when we were thinking about the spirit for 926, I was like, I like the idea of everyone eating together and sharing meals.
I love it. What about you?
For me, in my family, I think food was a love language. I grew up in a household where we didn't really show much affection to each other. Like, I don't really say, Mom, I love you, or Dad, I love you, but I feel like that was communicated through food because it was something that they spent so much time and care for, and rejecting their food felt like, oh my God, I have shame and guilt because you are offering this to me with so much love. So for me, it was like the main love language at home.
Qué belleza. speaking of love, I skipped over this part, but we should have started. How did you two meet? We have to hear this story. How did you two meet personally before you crossed over into becoming partners in business as well?
It was a cold winter night.
It really was, and it was post-pandemic craziness because it was that time where we were kind of beginning to go back into the club, so we were still not supposed to be like two on top of each other. It was like a 2021, in December 2021. We met in Harlem actually, in a bar in Harlem, and when we met, it was kind of shocking because we said, "Oh wait, like you're from the Bronx, I'm from the Bronx. You're gay, I'm gay. You're Dominican, I'm Dominican. How come we've never seen each other?" So it shows you that.
I'll take a step back because he missed a very important part of this story.
It usually happens in a couple.
Which is we both didn't want to be at the bar where we met.
Las cosas de la vida.
And that is why we bonded. So I think that's important to mention, right? So I go to this bar with a friend and I don't want to be there because one is small, they don't have coat check, it's winter. And it was just like, we're already in your house. Why do we have to go to the, like I'm that type of person. Pedro then walks in with his friend, and he's also thinking the same thing. Like
I was dragging into my friend, and
so
I didn't
we're
want to be
there like trying to be good friends to our friends, and then our friends start talking to each other. So then Pedro and I start talking to each other, and we're like, "Oh yeah, like I don't want to be here." I'm like, "Yeah, me neither." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we have to make the best out of it and like talk." And we got to know each other, and that's when we found out like, "Oh, you're Dominican, I'm Dominican, you're from the Bronx, etc." And then from there, I was like, "Oh, you're actually cool. Like, let's meet when we're not in this environment that we don't want to be in,
and somewhere you actually want to go."
Right, right. That goes to show you, though. You should always take the chance, even if you don't want to go.
100%.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys met on a cold winter night, December 2021. And how did that love story progress? Between getting to know each other first as people, and then potentially, as partners, and then. We'll talk about how 926 came about as well.
Yes. Pedro instantly reminded me of home.
I get you.
Because I had other partners where we were just very different.
Yeah.
And when I met Pedro, it was like too much at once because I felt like I had met someone who I had known for a really long time. So I remember the next day we met up again, and we were in his car because it was supposed to be like let's just check in, and we were talking in his car for hours about
Green
like
flag.
everything, and we even like discovered that we were once at the same event, but never like actually spoke or met, and like we were like with people that we've known, and we ourselves didn't.
We were
meet.
orbiting
So
each other.
It was so interesting. So then from there, we just like. The conversations progressed, and a month later, we were together in Dominican Republic, which is like,
yeah, we took a trip. I said to myself, if you survive a trip with somebody you're dating, that should be the first.
You learn a lot about people on trips, for better or for worse.
Yeah, but it was interesting because Pedro, during that trip, I remember he really wanted to show me a part of the yard that he loves, which I now love. It's La Terrenas, it's a beach town, and we had like this insane rainstorm. And here he was, like, trying to show me and impress me this really nice.
It rained throughout the whole time
like,
that we were there.
It poured, like the rain that hurts.
Yeah.
So I remember just being there, and I was like, you know what, Pedro, we're gonna go to the beach today, and we're gonna embrace the rain. Like the point of this is to like be grateful that it's raining so hard, and it couldn't have rained harder. And we had such an amazing time at the beach because we had already left the hotel knowing that this was going to be it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I remember we had like my waterproof speaker. We were listening to music. We were just dancing in the rain.
And people were looking at us like, "Oh, they're crazy." I was like, "Listen, we're already here." So.
And then from there, I was like, "Yeah, he's it."
Oh my gosh! And how did the engagements come about? Because I know it was on a trip, and you both proposed to each other. Was that by surprise? Oh my goodness!
Yes. I think I was telling Eddy, I don't think people are going to believe this story. People probably think that we're making it up. But now that I think about it, it happened because of the moment. We were going on a trip with his mom and his grandmother. And I think that his mom and his grandmother are the most important people in his life. This is how I viewed it all the time. It's like, oh, this moment has to be with them by my side. I always knew that. So it clicked for me. And I think for him, it's probably the same. Like, hey, I'm going on a trip with the two most important people in my life and my partner. This is the moment. So I think it was more about a moment. And but it was a surprise. I was, when he proposed to me, I was a little bit confused because I was like, wait, well, I'm supposed to be doing this. What's happening? And so I was mainly confused. And then it dawned on me, it's like, oh, wow, like somebody's proposing to me right now. My boyfriend, so but yeah, afterwards it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm glad we did it at the beginning of the trip, because if it was later on, I would be like so full of anxiety. So yeah.
And I knew that Rome was the perfect place because when we decided to, my grandmother's dream has always been to go to the Vatican. And every year we delay it. And it's getting hard for her to walk for a long time. So I told Pedro, you know what? Let's just do it and let's take her to the Vatican and let's do this. As we were planning this trip, I'm like, Rome or Italy is the perfect place to propose. One, because we always bonded over our love for Italian food. So I was like, it would be amazing to go to a restaurant and have an amazing Italian authentic food. But then the first song that Pedro dedicated to me was about building an empire.
Ironic. Yeah.
And we're like at this peak of this supper club that has a lot of attention and we have other ideas coming about. And I'm like, this was one of the most influential empires that existed. The proposal needs to happen with the Colosseum in the background. And he has obviously his reasoning, but we're not communicating this at all. And it's interesting because Pedro and I always knew that we were it for each other, but we never sat down to say like, hey, you're the one who's proposing, or hey, I want this ring. We
never had a timeline
or anything. I want my ring to look like this or this brand. Never. It was just something that is going to happen, but we're not pressed about it.
Yeah.
So for it not to only happen on the same day, almost at the same time, but to get the exact same ring from the exact same brand, that to me was the universe. I was like, this is unbelievable.
And I remember you shared even more behind the scenes on social media, which was like when you went to go pick it up, you almost ran into him or vice versa.
Yes.
It was like tan milimétrico, and you guys were so in sync without knowing it at the time that you could have, in passing.
And then his mom was in between all of that because I gave her the ring to carry because I didn't want to have it at home just in case that he finds it. And then he did the same. So she had two rings. He's like, oh my God, me going through TSA, it was like I was sweating bullets.
And so when I remember proposing to Pedro and there was like this energy of confusion. And I was also confused because I'm like, this is like the moment.
Right. Like, aren't you supposed to be happy?
The ring he got me is the exact same one. So he thought that my mom was giving the ring he got me.
So I looked at it, I was like,
so
what?
he's like, why are you giving, like, you're ruining it. It's not time yet. And I'm trying to understand what they're like visually like trying to communicate.
I remember when everything happened, I looked, I was like, so wait, what do I do next? And she goes like, continue with the plan. Her words were continue with the plan. I'm like, okay, great. We're going to this place now.
But we got two different photographers, two different, it was, yes.
That's beautiful. Okay, now, por fin, hablemos de 926 Supper Club, because we've mentioned it, we've hinted at it, but tell me about its inception. Where did the idea come from? How did your respective paths cross, now in the business sense, and how it's grown to be what it is now?
It started last April. We had a dinner party for my mom in our apartment. And we decided to do a dinner party and hire a private chef because my mom is always the one who cooks. And we always do dinners at different restaurants and stuff. I was like, you know what, this year, let's do something different. Let's just have it at our house and let's dress up and have someone cook for us. So we did it and we loved it because it was nice to be home and to like just host my family and have a different environment. That was nice. So we did it. And then I remember, and this was like my math in my head, the rental place told me that I can keep everything that I rented for the weekend because they were closed on Sunday.
Sacarle el jugo.
Right.
Exactly. So in my head, I'm like, ooh, I have like tables and chairs and linens to play with. Let me just do another dinner party for my friends. So we did back-to-back dinners for family and then friends. And then our friends was like, wait, we like this, Eddy. You should do this again. So then one theme led to the next. And then every dinner became more intricate in terms of details and outfits and cocktail pairings. Then it was summertime at this point, and I tell Pedro, I was like, I think we should do something different. Like, what is it? Like, what is the next business idea? And we couldn't think of anything. But people online started asking us, hey, we want to go to your apartment. And at first, Pedro was like, hell no. Like, why would
I don't want
strangers
strangers in my
over?
apartment.
Yes.
That was my first reaction. Like, I don't
And
want
I was
strangers.
like, you know what? He's right. Like, yo estoy loco. Like, why would I invite strangers
Gotta
to our
protect
house?
your energy,
Right.
your
Yes,
space. I hear it 100%.
But then I got a lot of more inquiries, and I kept nudging Paige. I was like, did you see that? Like, more people? Like, okay, like, maybe this could be something. So then I stopped bringing it up to Paige, and I went to my mom, because in my head, I'm like, we need a cook, and we don't cook. So
a lot of people think we cook, but we don't.
Well, there we go. The truth comes out.
I tell my mom, hey, Mom, are you willing to sell your food just for like extra cash? And she's like, no, like, why would I have a good job. Why would I sell my food? And I said, well, what if we invite people to our house? Would you be able to cook dinner for them? She's like, of course. Like, I cook dinners for you guys all the time for every holiday. And I was like, uh-huh. So then I'm like thinking like, okay, this is a possibility. And then I go back to Pedro. I was like, Pedro, maybe we could put a security camera. Maybe if we lock this door or block the couch with this. I was just trying to figure out every design that we could potentially do to get him comfortable to have a complete strangers at our home. And then I was like, you know what? Let's just try it. Like, let's just do it. And the worst thing that could happen is someone gets drunk, or like we need to kick somebody out or something. And we then was like, okay, let's do it. And that's when we started thinking of like, oh, what are we going to call this thing? How often is it going to happen? The operations of it, how are we going to charge people?
I didn't know what a supper club was prior to Eddy introducing it to me. I was not, before we talked about going to like a chef's apartment to eat something, but I didn't know what a supper club was. And then Eddy explained, hey, this is what it is. And he sold me into it.
Okay, so unofficially launched in April of last year. But
No,
what was your first event? So April of last year was your mom's dinner.
Correct.
So that's when the first seed was planted.
Correct. Yes.
And when did you officially launch as 926?
So then we had all summer to plan it, because in my head, I'm like, I'm a marketing professional, so I need to have a good brand. We need to have a good story. So I was designing like basically all the dinners. And then we couldn't think of a name. So then I told my mom, like, hey, like, what name would you recommend for us to have? And we thought of like all these cheeky, maybe like Dominican funny names, and nothing like really spoke to us. But then we said, how do we want people to feel? And we said 4 things: grateful, special, at home, and celebrated. And then we instantly thought of 926 Southern Boulevard. We were like, oh my God, that's how we felt at 926. And I was like, this is about food. And we always ate there, and everybody was welcome. And we shared the food. So then we was like, yes, let's name it 926. And 926 was born. Then we went back to the drawing board, and I was like, wait, September 26th is on a Friday. Let's launch on 926.
Oh my gosh, iconic.
And we launched, and we officially told the world on 926 that we were launching, and we hosted our first dinner in October.
Okay, so you guys are close to your 1-year anniversary,
Yes.
which is exciting.
Yes.
Who did you decide to invite to that first dinner? What is the thought process? So once you put it out there, you put it into the universe, we're putting together what you all have asked. I'm sure there were a lot of questions in terms of how can I come? How often? What does it charge? Like, what does it cost? So what was the thought process behind that?
We first launched a teaser, like a practice dinner with close friends and family, and we ran that operation as if we were going to run it as a regular supper club, just because we wanted to see the timing of things and the placement of seats and how we operate, how fast are we attending to people. And that one was really cool because it was just a few close friends and family members, and the feedback was amazing. Instantly, the feedback was perfect. And then the next one after that was complete strangers. We released the guest list. At first, we were the first people that signed up, and we were actually researching them, going through there, like, oh, let me look at their Instagram profile, like look up on LinkedIn.
Make sure they're real people.
Correct. And after that, it got to a point where it was so large that we couldn't control it. It was like, oh my God, we didn't even know how to find this person,
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had a soft launch, and then after that, we're like, okay, let's do the real thing. And after we did the first one, it got out of control that we were like, yeah, now they're really complete strangers. Because before we could say, oh, this person signed up, or I know he's a friend of a friend.
Is one of the criteria for everyone in attendance to be both strangers to you and strangers to each other?
No.
No.
Because there were friends and family who wanted to support our small business, and they attended, and we let them because they would meet other strangers.
It's funny because a person came to a dinner the other day, and when I opened the door, I said to her, "Your face looks familiar to me." And she goes, "Oh, we went to high school together."
Que mundo tan chiquito.
And it
So,
happens often.
It happens often. Even with college people, it's because people who are probably orbiting us, they're like, "Oh my God, I remember that guy from, the hallway in high school," and they sign up, and it was cool. Yeah.
Okay. So how often are you guys putting these on at this point? You're a couple months out. What is the rhythm that you guys have found works for you all?
We started once a month,
Okay.
and that worked until December, when we decided to do one supper club a month and one private dinner a month. And the first private dinner we hosted was in January. So someone, and I laughed because it was the most unexpected invitation or request that we can ever get. It was the owner of the New York Mets had requested if they can do a private dinner for their family in our home. But at the time, we were only operating for 3 months, and it felt so unreal that Pedro and I thought we were getting scammed that we at first ignored the email.
Oh my goodness.
Full disclosure, we were like, "Yeah, look at the domain. Yeah, I don't think that's real." Like,
And we were
that's
like,
not-
"Oh, let's do some research."
All the
Like,
pointers that we're told.
We
Yeah.
couldn't, no lo podíamos creer.
Yeah.
It was-
Like, ¿por qué
yeah.
nosotros?
And also, like, this family in my living room where I have to move a couch to fit a table, like it wasn't adding up. And I was like, let's give it some time. And then they followed up. I was like, wait, this may be real. And then it happened, and they gave us the idea that we should do this because there are many people who want to have the experience but want to do it with their friends and families. And then we were like, okay, let's try it. So we did it for them, not knowing that we could always do it for other people. Just, it was a one-off. DK. And then it worked amazingly, and we were like, okay, let's do it. So then we launched private events, and by February, all of them were sold out for the year.
So how many? Like, how did you just? It was one per month.
One per
one
month.
So
per
from
month.
February onwards, that was what 11 sold out.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because remember, this is our home. We live here too, and
Yes.
it takes a
You have to
lot of
space
time
it
to
out.
plan.
Not only that, we have other things to do on weekends.
Of course.
Yeah.
And we've learned that this operating the supper club is not something that we just do for 3 hours. This is something that takes 2 weeks to prepare. And it's not that 2 weeks of like, oh my God, we're like working every day, but it's just thinking of like, do we have this in inventory? What are we going to do the menu? Can we potentially like work with a brand to feature something? It becomes an entire operation.
Of course.
And then the day of, that's really when we have to flip this house around, not only to host a supper club, but to have a showroom ready, because people come into our apartment and they feel at home. They like start opening the windows. They're like, oh my God, it's a beautiful view. They're taking pictures. And you want to have your house looking nice. So
This me quita el sombrero for so many reasons. First of all, because there is so much that goes into it that someone from the outside looking in might not think about. As I hear you talk about the prep, I very recently hosted my family, and I love hosting loved ones. I don't think hosting is for me beyond loved ones, however. And so when you're talking about like out in las, and I'm like, no, like that's not for me. However, I also think about as a host, you want to put the best foot forward and you want to present the very best part of your home. And I also think of like the frantic cleaning and like the making
Oh
sure
my
that
God,
everything's in
all
place
the time.
and like pasar el dedo and you're like, okay, it's good, or no, it's
Yeah.
not good, or
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
yeah.
we're missing, so there is truly so much that comes into play. And I would love to hear what those trials by fire have been. Like, what have you all learned as you've been doing more and more of these, which I'm sure, because they're not exactly the same. You guys are not copy pasting every experience. You're making it unique. So talk about what you're continuing to learn, and also how you make each dinner truly unique to those people in that date and time.
So every month the theme is different. La temática es diferente. And every menu is different. Now menus have become collectibles because, you know, people have like different theme throughout the months. But getting ready for it takes a lot of like trips to the storage facility that we have, making sure that everything is in place, going to the flower market because we get fresh flowers every time. Making sure that all the food is prepared in coordination with Eddy's mom. But also, like you said, for me, making sure that everything is put together. Lately, I've been really learning. Eddy has more of the hosting experience, like where to place the forks and the knives and where to put the cup. I've recently learned all of that because I don't come from a hosting background. And now I like to be proactive with that because I'm like, oh, I just learned this and this is how, you know, I put it together. And then I was like, hey, what did you think? Did I do it right? So I'm taking an interest in that now. And Eddy's very into the whole creative cricket, cutting, make sure the menu is up to par. And but yeah, overall, it's chaotic. I've learned to, you know, make sure that I always have a full belly because if I'm hungry and I'm doing this and I'm stressed, we're gonna start arguing or pulling hair, or being a little patient with each other because it's chaotic. But at the end of the night, we're like, oh, I can't believe we did it.
Yeah.
So I definitely learned that the day of the dinner, we cannot do anything that involves printing. Like absolutely nothing, because you can never know what could happen. Something's not cutting, something's not printing, is not a line, like it doesn't
Murphy's
look good.
Law.
Yeah.
Siempre algo pasa.
Yeah. So that's one thing that we learned. We're like, if we need to print all these menus or we need to do anything that involves printing, we have to do it at least by the night before. The day of, we learned that we need to set the table in the living room essentially as early as possible, because again, anything can happen. Whether it's the cushions that need to be washed, or now we ironed the linen and we see a stain and we didn't see that before, so now we have to wash it again or change it. There's always something that comes up. And then on top of that, there's always something that comes up from the guests.
So it was a curveball.
I love to personalize everything because I have this crazy idea that when you see your name on something, you are going to want to keep it. You feel special. You know that it was made for you. 100%. This is not something that we showed someone 3 months ago and now is also yours. But there are guests who are like, oh, I'm now bringing Jose and I was supposed to bring
Juan.
Richard. And I'm like, okay, like let me go print these other 5 things, which is now, you know what I'm saying?
And it has happened to the point where even when the person walked in, it's like, oh wait, but you said it was this person and it's a whole different person. Yes. So you're sitting there with a menu that has somebody else's
name. And there are
name.
things that we curate and give as gifts that have your name on it that cannot easily be like, oh yeah, let me get 2 minutes, let me do that, So now it's awkward because you have something that doesn't have your name. And so yeah, we learned that we have to do all creative things at least the night before, and then things that have to do with setup that morning in case anything needs to be changed, washed, or fixed. Then by like the evening, we should be in a place where like, okay, if someone comes in, it's not that messy, but we're still working on it, because there have been situations where people have come really early, and that's awkward.
Yes. I mean, me ha pasado, especially if it's a stranger. Because
right.
if it's someone you're like, me maquillo and you're right there, and me haces visita,
because someone is super early, like, oh, but I still have to mop the floor.
Yeah, or like I need to be in the kitchen, but you're in the living room, and now I feel like I need to have eyes on you, but it gets awkward, so we try to do everything as quickly as possible that morning. But we are always literally to the last minute of like working on something. Yeah. And as good as we try to get, there's always a curveball.
You know when you're watching like a competition show and there's like 5 seconds.
Oh my gosh!
And, and that's literally us.
But at first it was really bad. At first, oh my god, I laughed because at first it got to the point where like I just got ready in 10 minutes and I don't know how I did this, and now I'm like opening my door and like I'm talking to someone where now we have a little time to relax, take some selfies, do some footage. But before, it was insane because we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into.
Talk about what it's like to work alongside family, because there is this perception, right, that they should be kept separately, but your mom is the head chef. She is the chef. You know, you two obviously are partners, again, as I mentioned earlier, in love and in life and now in business. So what has that been like?
It's such a beautiful journey, and I love that you asked this because I'm actually working on putting out a reel about what does it feel like to work with my mom. As an adult, I'm finally getting to know my mom as a person and not as my mom.
Yeah.
I'm asking her those deep questions, those real questions. We are now in a business setting, right? Like my mom and I have FaceTime call and we can talk about anything. But then when we have a FaceTime call about 926, you know things are serious.
Focus.
And she has been an amazing, I call her the co-founder as well because this is equally at hers.
Yeah.
Because my mom at first, you know, she was like, oh, I'll do whatever you want. If you want me to make this, I'll cook it. If you want me to make that, I'll like whatever you want. And now I'm like, Mom, but you know the flavor profiles. You know how the timing works. You know what you can and cannot do. Like, I really need your help too. And we've gotten to a better place now that she feels more, she has like more autonomy with her creative freedom. And it all started with the bread pudding that we have. And we laugh because the bread pudding is something that she didn't want to make. I was like, Mom, we should try another dessert. Let's do a bread pudding. And she's like, no, I never made that. I'm like, but it's not that complicated. I feel like you can do it.
As someone who doesn't cook.
Right.
And then she went to the kitchen and she came out with this bread pudding that we were like, no
And now it has
way.
become a hit.
Now when, let's say she has, I don't know, a friend coming or she knows most people who are dining and she wants to impress them, it's the bread pudding. And I'm like, it's funny because just a few months ago it was flan. And now it's like, so I know she can do these things.
Yeah.
It happened with the empanadas. I was like, Mom, the empanadas are delicious, but I don't like how they look. I think they look too, and for me, I'm also about presentation, you know?
Of course.
And she's like, oh, but I did them. I'm like, no, I think there's a better way for us. And now she figured it out. And jamás would she do it the way she used to do it. And I'm like, you see, like, so it's a little bit of like pushing her to be more creative.
Yeah.
But when it comes to food, I mean, she's the chef, so she knows like what could work.
Yeah.
And especially with the themes, like we just had a fruit dinner theme. And
Fun.
she was like, oh, I can do moro de guandule con coco. I'm like, okay, interesting that we're introducing rice with coconut milk, and most people probably never had that. And that's something that we can talk about and introduce in our culture. Or before we used to not serve con, which is the sticky part of the rice, just because we
The
felt
best
like,
part, in my opinion.
Right.
But we didn't
El
serve
pegao,
it because
as we say in
Correct,
Colombia.
correct.
Yeah.
But we didn't serve it because we didn't think people would want it.
It's also not the most visually appealing at first glance.
Yeah, it's
But
also
little
like
do they know.
associated with like, I don't know, maybe El Bajo Mundo or
Yeah.
something
Like
like that.
leftovers,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And now she was like, no, let's serve it after someone had like provided that feedback. And now it's a thing that we even have like a special vase for it now.
Nice.
Like it has taken that role. And working with her has been amazing because Pedro and I actually used to run a short-term rental business. And we used to do like Airbnb and VRBO in North Carolina. And my mom was also almost like a co-founder because every time we had to go furnish these homes, like a plane ride away from home, she would come with us.
Speed up.
Mm-hmm.
Nos
And
fuimos.
she was there for the entire weekend with us, just working all day, all night, like cleaning, building furniture, getting things assembled. And now that we're doing 926, it's so much different and easier.
Yeah.
But we've learned how to operate under pressure when we had to like get this IKEA furniture built in 3 days. You know what I'm saying?
Gosh, IKEA furniture will be the bane of my existence. I was also going to say there is a level of trust that you have with family that you can never have with anybody else as much as you try. And I'm sure that helps, especially when it comes to trying things for the first time or pushing each other to be better, to try something new, as you
Yes.
just mentioned.
Also with disagreements. If it was a friend where, you know, when money gets involved, things could get a little complicated.
Yeah.
And with family, I feel like if we disagree, we know that we're always family and we will come back and we will like try to make sense of it. But it's so much easier to talk about these sensitive issues around money. And having a great relationship with my mom and being fair to acknowledge the work that we all put in, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, especially because you all recognize that you're coming with each other's best interest in
Correct.
mind as
And it
well.
gives you also assurance because if you were to, part of the business, part of everything is also failure. If you fail, if you're doing it with a friend, you feel this sense of shame and guilt. Like, oh man, you spent all your time and energy in this. But with a trusted family member, it's like, okay, next time we can try something different and move on and keep doing it. So.
And not only disagreements after the dinner, things happen in the kitchen. Things get wild, right? Like, I remember one time the stove stopped working.
No.
It legit just like the outage just went off, and
We have an electric stove and it just like stopped.
And
It didn't
Pedro
turn
and I
on.
were introducing people, and we hear this like boom in the kitchen, but we don't stop speaking. But my mom needs our attention, but she doesn't want to tell everybody that the stove is not working. But now the food is gonna be late. And when you have all these things in your head and you're trying to move things forward, it could get stressful. And you may say something with an attitude that you didn't mean it because you're just under the pressure.
Right.
So what happened in that instance? How did you guys save the day? I have to know.
I think a fuse went off, so I just went to the electrical panel and I just restarted everything.
Yep.
Almeida, you didn't have to
Yeah.
call TaskRabbit.
No.
You did it. You picked up on something from your dad.
I learned something from inspecting apartments as a real estate agent.
And we know
on
also how to buy time, like I was like, oh,
Yeah.
people are interested in talking about this, or let's move this activity to do it now.
You're
and
like,
not
look
later."
over here.
Yeah.
Not the kitchen.
Yes.
How long does it take to prepare for a dinner? So let's say that you have a dinner in a week. Is that enough time to prepare, or do you need much more time?
That is enough time, but we are like pushing it.
Okay, so in an ideal world, you have how much time?
We always have a month technically
Okay.
because we know when the next dinner will
Reservations in
be.
advance. Okay.
Yeah.
So walk us through that process from start to finish. I come in as an interested party. I make my reservation. You know that our dinner is in 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. What's the first step?
You're going to get an email saying, congratulations, this dinner is on this day and it's in the Bronx. The address will be shared like a day before. I will follow up with you once the date gets closer.
Okay.
And then we're relaxing. And a week later, we say, okay, we have to think about a theme. Actually, no, the theme has already been thought of, but we were thinking about how we're going to execute the theme. Like, what are the flowers of the color going to be? Is the tablecloth going to change? Or let's think about the design of the menu. Or what activities do you want to do? Sometimes we do activities that require us engaging with you prior. Like there was a dinner that we incorporated plants. It was National Gardening Month. So we wanted everyone to tell us which is their favorite herbs. And we asked you that like a week prior, because the dinner inside your menu, you had the choice of your favorite herb as a seed so you can grow it at home.
Wow.
So there's things like that have required pre-planning. But once the theme is set and the menu is created, everything flows because everything else is repetition and just mechanics.
And also we also try to think about how do we introduce people to our culture. There are now people who travel just to come to the supper club.
Wow.
We just had a person travel from California.
Oh my gosh.
She flew in, stayed at a hotel nearby, went to the supper club, and flew back home the next day.
We also hosted a private dinner for a group of food enthusiasts who travel, and they came from D.C.
From Washington, D.C.
From Washington, D.C. Yeah.
So we are aware that we're not only catering to the people who may be associated with Dominican food. Now we want to introduce people to our culture. Now we step in with the assumption that you don't know anything. And so for our last dinner, it was fruit inspired.
Yeah.
And I told my mom, I was like, we have a lot of good juices that we always made. Like, let's do a juice tasting.
Chinola.
And we had jugo chinola.
Yum.
We had jugo de avena con limón. Because
Dominicans always pair these random fruits with each other, like
We do the same in Colombia.
and it ends up tasting amazing. You know,
It's
Yeah.
surprising in the best way.
if you tell somebody, oh, I'm going to make juice and it has oatmeal and lime, you're like, what?
yeah.
But then you have it, it's like, oh, wow. We had jugo de guanábana, which was amazing. So we had all these juices and we showcased them in a flight and had a juice tasting. And it was amazing because people were like, oh, I never had this. Or I remember I had this, but it has been like 10 years.
Wow.
And I was like, something so simple. It doesn't cost us a
Yeah.
lot to do. It's juice. Let's do it. And now we are always innovating, trying to not only share this theme, but also bring it to life.
So the through line is sharing Dominican culture, welcoming others into your home, and creating community. How do you identify the intersection with each theme? I know that you mentioned there are themed months, National Gardening Month, as you mentioned. So what goes into that?
So as of right now, something that we forgot to mention earlier is that the theme is highly associated with life at 926 when Eddy was growing up there with his grandmother. So it's almost like a tribute to that apartment. One of the themes one month was the plastic couch that they had, the plastic covering on the red couch.
Typical.
And we said, how can we create art out of this? So with the help of AI, he actually replicated the same exact couch that was in their house, and we wrapped it up in plastic. So the theme of that night was wrapped in plastic, because not only are we showing you something that a lot of us can relate to because almost everybody had it, but it's also what's the meaning of this? Why was this wrapped up in plastic? And it's because most often that was the most expensive furniture item in the house, and it's the one that took the longest hours to work for and the most money. So we wanted to preserve it.
Yep.
So you sacrifice comfort for longevity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was very uncomfortable to sit on
It was
those
not a
couches.
fashion
It was
statement to have,
crunchy.
especially in the
Right.
summertime.
In the summertime.
Uy, se
Yeah.
And one of
pegaba. Sí, sí.
And we also want, beyond the theme, we are aware that our growing audience, there are people who may not relate to it,
Yeah.
right? You may come from a very wealthy family who never had plastic on anything. And we don't want to exclude you from the conversation or the experience. So the topic at the dinner table is always broad enough that anyone can be an equal participant. So while we were visually looking at things wrapped in plastic, like the menu, the tablecloth, what we were talking about are things that we preserve, love, and protect. Because regardless of where you come from, you have something that you love, preserve, or protect it.
Absolutely.
When we were talking about fruits, we were actually talking about the fruit of our labor and the work that goes into it, and the work that goes into building community, and basically how we achieve what we have done, right?
And this is where the storytelling part comes into play, because you're not just here to sit in an apartment to eat and meet strangers, but we also want to tell you the story about an immigrant family who, lived in a cramped space, but there was always love, there was always ambition, there was always the dream of a better tomorrow. So we're in essence telling the story of the diaspora, and that's how a lot of people connect.
I love that. That's beautiful.
We do a good job of selling nostalgia.
Yeah.
I think that's what attracts people.
Which is ultimately how you crack a business. When you can give people something that isn't always tangible, but they can still relate to
Correct.
it. Speaking of that, 926 is homage to where you grew up. How would you say your grandmother's spirit still is honored through everything that you do? You are very intentional about the storytelling component. You're very intentional about showcasing not only Dominican culture, but also the wider diaspora, as you just mentioned. So what are other aspects that you would say are closely tied to your grandmother or both your families?
I think we do a lot of, even the activities that we do are somehow mimicking things that she did in the past or that every grandma did. There was one activity in which we come out with the infamous tin cookie jar from Danish cookies. And as soon as we take it out, we call that activity something sweet. And a lot of people think, oh my God, my grandma used to have that. And what's inside? Not cookies, surprise, surprise. It's like a sewing kit
Yes.
or something.
Yeah.
So
It was just a storage.
correct. So this is her story. Like Eddy always says, he told her the other, you are the brand ambassador because we're telling your story. It's about you being in the kitchen. You always wanted to feed everyone, whether it was a stranger out the fire escape. And her little rituals. We did another menu where it was themed brown box, blue barrel. And it's about, I'm sure every culture does it, but Dominicans like to put boxes together and ship them home. And it's, you put rice in there, you put oil in there, things that if my mom is going to go to DR 3 months from now to spend her summer there, they're going to send like
What's she going to need?
Right. Like they have everything in there, coffee. So it's like the ultimate care package.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love that.
And we kind of took that as a theme.
That's beautiful. Aside from 926, which obviously takes a lot of time, effort, thought process, what do you all do when you're not hosting dinners and putting on experiences? Do you still sell homes? Is it commercial real estate? Is it residential?
I do residential real estate. I'm really lucky because my schedule is very flexible, and whenever clients are available to tour apartments and places, it's usually on non-work hours. So it'll be either like after work in the evening or mostly on the weekends. But I have the privilege of manipulating my schedule a lot. So I'm kind of lucky in that sense. And then when we're not focusing on Supper Club stuff, we are, at the gym. Sometimes I just want to stay in bed. It's crazy because you think you have all those plans like, oh my God, I haven't been off in a while. It's like, oh my God, I just want to stay home and relax and just enjoy my bed and chill.
What about you, Eddy?
I'm always thinking of ideas. I tell Pedro that I really want this artwork to put it in our home, specifically in the kitchen, that says, I have an idea. Because it's a phrase that we say so often that when we say it now and we don't realize that we're saying it, we laugh.
Yeah,
like,
we come up to each other like, oh, I have an idea.
Yes.
That's a common phrase throughout our relationship.
I have an idea. I have an idea. And I'm always thinking of ideas because everything that's around us was created by someone. Like this cup, this mic, this couch, like at some point it didn't exist.
Yep.
And I am really keen on like, we should create.
Yeah. And inspiration is everywhere.
Yes. So I'm always thinking of like, what should we do next? When I'm not doing 926 full time, I'm a marketing professional. So I have a 9 to 5 and that takes up half of my days. After work, I am editing or shooting or reaching out to brands, working on that. So there's always something I'm working on. And I sometimes complain like, oh my God, I'm so busy. But then when there's nothing to do, I'm like, wait, something's wrong here. Like, why am I not?
Yeah.
Like I was just a commencement speaker for middle school.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Pedro, I was like, I signed up for that. Like, what was I thinking? We have this to do. We have that to do. Like, there's a lot. But I was like, no, like, I remember signing up because I feel like kids should see someone who looks like them and that would inspire them.
100%.
And I do have an issue that I overcommit. I'm a yes man.
I'm right there with you.
On that. And sometimes I spread myself too thin, but it's because I'm so passionate and I kind of want to do it all, but I'm realizing I can't always do it all at 100%.
Yes, I am right there with you with literally everything that you said. And I asked that question because not many people realize that people can have a 9 to 5, but it's the passion projects. It's the ideas that come when you're able to execute on the 5 to 9 that are just as important, if not more important, because those are things that we're doing without the pressure of someone else's standard, right? Like you set the rules and you set what it looks like. And yes, that is a challenge because there is no blueprint for what you guys are doing. But I would argue that it makes it the most rewarding because it's on your terms and fully with the intention that you want to put out there.
It feels fun too. Like sometimes we don't go to bed until like 3 a.m. doing things, but if I was doing that for my regular job, I would be like, oh my God, like my life is miserable. But now I'm like, oh my God, we did that.
Yeah.
It feels fun. I feel like I'm having fun.
Is there a world in which you all want to work up to doing 926 Supper Club full time? Or do you value the separation between two things?
There's a world where Pedro and I will eventually just be full-time serial entrepreneurs.
I love that.
It is the only thing I see. Because it's where we thrive the most. The reason why our relationship so early on just sort of grew so rapidly was because of our ability to always think of ideas and try to like do something about it. I remember when I first met Pedro, he owned a trucking company and he was always having these conversations about like traveling with loads and like gas prices and all this. And that made me think like, this guy works and then he's working on this passion project. I should be doing something. And so then I was like, you know what? We should do Airbnb. And we started doing that. And then that didn't work out. And then it was like, well, let's do the Supper Club. So I feel like even, let's say, God forbid, the Supper Club ends, I will still be like, we will find another idea and like run with it. Because the only way I see failure is if we stop trying. And something is going to work out.
Yeah.
For me, I really don't know what the future holds, but I think it could be a door to something else. Because if you were to tell me last year around this time that I would be sitting in this room talking about a supper club, like, what? What are you talking about? Or that we will be
Yeah.
on like national TV or on a major newspaper,
Yeah.
I would never, it would never cross my mind.
Yeah.
So I'm just, I'm open to all the opportunities, but before all, like, I'm so grateful to
Yeah.
God, grateful to the universe that, you know, I feel like it's like almost divine. Because sometimes I'm thinking like, that's crazy. Some people work so hard to accomplish, spend many, many, many years at a field to accomplish a little bit of recognition. And people are, we go out in the streets and people are like, oh my God, you guys are the guys from 926. Or, people tell us so many beautiful, beautiful things that I'm like, wow, like this is, touching people,
Yeah. And the work speaks for itself, like I mentioned. And I do also think that it's so important to also showcase the nonlinear nature of this because, like you mentioned, you didn't plan things to happen the way that they did. You followed your gut and you're doing things with your heart
Right.
and with your identity at the core of everything. And I think that's beautiful. So I hope you all give yourselves credit. And whenever you have the very limited downtime, you do take it all in. We've talked about the inception of 926. We've talked about the prep before receiving people and even some of the things that happen at these dinners. What is your hope when people leave your space after having experienced one of those dinners? Is it a feeling that you want them to leave with? Is there a word of mouth maybe that you'd like them to share? What's the goal after everything is all said and done?
I would love for them to feel as if they need to do more of it and experience more of it. It would be a dream if everyone who left goes back home and says, you know what? I'm going to call this friend that I haven't had dinner with in 10 years, or I'm going to finally invite my mom over to my house. And maybe I can't cook, so we're going to order food, but we are going to have a small dinner party or a small gathering. Because it does so much to you when you share a meal intentionally with someone and make an effort to, like to actually prepare to receive that person, to host them. I think it's a beautiful experience if people can do that, because it really brings people together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful.
For me, I love how when people leave, they feel a sense of encouragement to do more things alone. I feel like people have this fear of doing things by themselves, either sitting at a restaurant by yourself or going on a solo trip. And there are people who come into our apartment when we open the door and they're a little bit scared because as much as this is a challenge to us, it is a challenge to them. I'm going to a person's apartment that I never know to sit next to a person that I never met before. The lady was like, oh my God, I share my location with all my kids and everything. Now let me just, undo it. And then at the end of the night, you left with another person's contact information, sharing laughters and somebody knowing you. So at the end of the night, I feel like if you leave saying like, oh my God, I was really scared about doing this by myself, but I loved it, I should do more.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what I really want people to do and have a sense of like, oh, that was an amazing experience. I did it by myself. I need to do more of that.
Yeah. What is something you all would say people would be surprised to know about that you haven't already mentioned to do the type of work that you all do?
What I found the most surprising is how vulnerable people are willing to be. Because they truly feel special with the level of intention that we do everything with. And I say that because recently we received an email from someone who dined with us a while ago. And you would think that after all this time, it's like, okay, enough time has passed. And the email was so beautiful about how they're still thinking about their experience, about things that they're going through personally, and how it has changed their perspectives on things. So the fact that lingers and you're willing to share with me personal aspects of your life based on me providing a space and a dinner, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And it reaffirmed that experience for me when we launched recently a giveaway for college students or students who are graduating from any level. we received 174 nominations, and there were people who overshare details that I don't even think their therapist knows.
Wow.
To the point that Pedro and I purposely, I was like, you review it in one room and I'll do it in another, so that we can, be fair and pick the people that speak to us. But midway through, I remember bawling and crying and like telling Pedro, oh, go to this page or go to this tab, like read about this person. Because people really, really took the time to share their story. And that told me that they really value this experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful.
And to be vulnerable based on what you can experience is so beautiful to me.
And I think to be able to be vulnerable, you have to feel safe. So again, credit to you both for creating spaces and creating a community in which people are willing to pull back the layers and pick up the wall in order to share these things with you all.
I think for me, I just want to echo what Eddy said. It's funny because we hosted a dinner recently, and it was the first dinner ever where it was all men on the table. And I remember telling Eddy, like, oh, I'm feeling kind of weird about this dinner. And he goes like, why? I was like, oh, because we've always been around female energy. Women have always shown us love, either on social media. Every major opportunity that we have received has come from a female. So we've always felt like we have so much respect and admiration for women, and we get along with women so well. But I said, I don't know how these men are going to feel. Like, we are at the end, we're a queer couple. We're two gay men, trying to play host and all of that. So he says, I think they want to be here. So relax, just treat them as normal. It's like, we need more female energy. So I was a little bit nervous. And when these men came, they were so vulnerable among each other. And it felt so beautiful to see grown men having conversations about vulnerability, the things that they want to do and how they view their family and whatnot. So I think it adds to that.
That's beautiful. And there's something you just mentioned that I'd love to talk a little bit more about, which is creating spaces for everyone to feel welcomed, especially as members of a community that hasn't always been and currently isn't always welcome.
Correct.
Talk about that.
Yes.
And whether or not it's something that it's at the forefront of your mind or something that comes naturally with what you do. But I think it's really important para destacarlo.
In the last dinner that we had prior to the one that I just mentioned, there was a lady who pulled me to the side and it's like, are you aware of the impact that you're having as two gay men hosting this? And I'm like, sometimes I think about it, but maybe I should pay more attention to it, because for me, I'm doing it with Eddy and his family, so it feels very natural. And I feel like social media has helped a lot too, because people see us together all the time. So I don't think there's one person who has come to the Supper Club and doesn't know that we are a couple. I think sometimes someone say, oh, your brother. And I'm like, that's not my brother. That's like, but there might be someone. But overall, I think social media helps us to the point where I even forget about that aspect,
But it was a point of conversation when we first thought about the idea, because Pedro, I remember telling me, we are only two gay boys from the Bronx. Like, what makes us special? And I told him exactly that.
So much.
I said exactly that. And I think that, Pedro and I have different coming out stories. Pedro sort of like always sort of knew, and his family like just slowly caught on to who he is. But for me, it was like night and day, right? Like one year I had a girlfriend, the next year I'm like, oh yeah, that was not me. I was pretending, And I remember when I fully came to terms, I was like, you know what? I want to serve an inspiration to others. So I was never shy about it, because I always knew that I would inspire someone. And when people come up to us, and it just happened 2 weeks ago where this guy saw us and he said, I just want you to know that you show me that this is possible for me. That I can have a relationship with a man and be engaged and plan a wedding and host people and have family around and it be celebrated. And that's exactly what I always envisioned, because it is, at the end of the day, we're just normal guys hosting dinners, interested in entertaining, right? And people acknowledge that. And what comes through our dinners is the love. The love from our family, the love from our guests, the love that we show online on social media as well. And once you show that to people, they start peeling off the layers and start getting a little bit more relaxed. This dinner that we hosted with all men, it was all straight men. They were all dads. And at first, it was kind of...
They were all talking about their wives and everything.
At first it was a little bit like, oh, like, where do you work and what do you do? And then afterwards, it was like, I remember one of the topics being that it's hard to it's hard to make new friends as a straight man with a busy job and family. Mm-hmm. Because you're not like commenting on each other's posts or like, hey, bro, what are you doing? Like that was the topic. Like it was hard. And it was like, oh, how can we make an effort to break bread with other men to talk about our lived experience? Wow. And there we were facilitating this as two gay guys with no kids, but the fact that we can have those conversations, to me, that's everything.
And at the end of the day, it's that human experience and the yearning for connection.
Correct.
Whatever that looks like, whatever background you're coming from, but you're still looking for connection at the end of the day.
Yep.
And you all are creating this space that serves precisely to do that.
Yep.
I don't want to take too much more of your time, although we could go on for hours, I'm sure. I do want to ask, as we think to the future, forward facing, two things. Number one, what is an inside scoop or exclusive that you could share for others to look forward to, either related to 926 or otherwise?
We were selected by the woman who served as a creative director for Michelle Obama's Becoming documentary to be the subject of a upcoming documentary.
Felicitaciones!
Gracias.
That's beautiful. And that's so exciting.
So you're hearing it here first.
We recently wrapped up filming it, and it was an unbelievable journey because we had the whole
level of production
entourage.
And I was like, oh my God, this is a true cinematic production.
Wow.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a movie.
Yeah. And there were people flying from LA just to be there, like part of the creative team. And I'm like, oh my God, this is huge.
Wow.
This is insane. Yeah.
Do we know roughly when it's coming out? Do we have a name for it?
It's a short film. We don't have a name for it.
We don't have
yet.
a name. They told us early fall.
Yeah.
This was Wait, that's so exciting. Wait, I hope
Yes.
there's like a watch party or something.
Yes,
because
of
this
course.
needs to be celebrated.
Yes.
Well, que felicitaciones, de verdad.
you.
Que
Thank you.
felicidad. Again, as I've mentioned throughout our entire conversation, and I've thought it even before meeting you guys in person, I really do think that when you do things with your whole heart, you attract the very best things as well. And you attract like-minded people, and you attract people who will only add to what you're doing and will cheer you on. And so I think that's beautiful. And these opportunities are a direct reflection of the hard work that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
And how authentic it is and how good-hearted it is.
Thank you.
The second and last question is, as you think towards the future of 926, what is a dream collaboration or a dream that you both are working towards, whether it's hosting someone in particular, or maybe making 926 a restaurant, or literally anything, something that you want to speak into existence?
We are definitely thinking about having an event space where we are able to show people that design shapes the experience in real life.
Realistically, that's where we think it's going.
Okay.
So it's not a restaurant, because a restaurant, as owners, our job will be about operations and HR, to be frank. We are more on the creative aspect. And my heart tells me that it will be an event space that we can transform to showcase that design shapes the experience. To whatever
I love
it is.
that.
To your birthday party, to your wedding.
Your
to
quinceañera, whatever.
It's a shame we did not meet earlier. I turned 30 later this month, and it would have been great. So we'll talk for 31. Thank you both so much.
you.
De
Thank
verdad,
you.
que orgullo, que felicidad, que emoción. I
Thank
wish
you.
you guys the very best, which I'm
Gracias.
sure so much more is left for us to uncover and for us to enjoy. And I'm cheering for you
Likewise.
guys always. Cuentan conmigo de verdad.
Thank
you
you.
again.
Thank you.
Felicitaciones.
Gracias.
And thank you all for listening and watching. Until next time.